Symbolic and welcome to another episode here for the Funky Pod, Mindful Media and Communication. As you can see, I'm not in my normal setting because I'm in Buenos Aires right now in Argentina for a conference that I'll be speaking at soon. But of course, I didn't want to let you wait any longer for another episode here for the Funky Pod and decided to make this Argentina, Buenos Aires special, especial. We're talking a little bit about what I've seen so far in regards to media narratives in Argentina, what influences the media or the media influences Argentina, as far as I can tell by now, and as far as communication and talks with people let me know. So let's dive into media in Argentina. And well, the thing is, I mean, I haven't been here for a long time yet, obviously, but I've talked with a few scholars by now, with tour guides and the like, and did some research when I couldn't sleep. Jet lag is awesome, and I found a few interesting kind of like pieces that I wanted to share and I wanted to actually elaborate on, cause well, it was kind of interesting. So let's hope you find it interesting too. Okay. So one of the more well-known aspects of Argentina is it's like this vibrant culture, right? Lots of traditions. If I say Argentina, you probably think steak, tango, and football. I would assume, and all of those are pretty intertwined in like the media landscape, which is kind of fascinating. And there's more than just, however, like surface level appreciation, if you know what I mean. So it's not just, hey, football is cool, but it's like it's really embedded in the media and the media complex, and it's shaped by history, politics, and culture itself. It's part of cultural identity. It's actually kind of interesting, and more on this in a second. But I stay in a certain area here in Buenos Aires, and like football, like there's like specific football team in this area, the Boca Juniors, a very famous one. But as soon as you move to like another area, it's like completely different, like football, like the colors are everywhere, there are murals everywhere. It's kind of crazy and kind of intriguing actually to understand. So I'm gonna try to explore how like the media reflects, and as far as I can tell from researching now a few days, and also shapes like culture. And I found a few cool stories that relate to that. Talking a little bit about like also like maybe tango, like global pop culture and so on. And I as always will connect some media theories to it to show how well those theories actually impact everyday life. That's what we always do, right? So before I start with my first point, I'm also gonna look a little bit into like freedom of press and censorship, because I mean, being from Thailand, it's always very interesting to see how other countries handle that. And I found some interesting piece of information there as well. So, well, without further ado, checking that my recording is recording, let's jump right into it, right? So, my first talking point should be, I planned it to be the historical media influence in Argentina, because when you do research, first thing that you usually see is like history, the historical part, right? And if you go a little bit back into how media has shaped Argentina's, I want to say, political and social landscape, there's lots to unpack. And it's actually pretty good timing, because I did like a tour yesterday, and the guide talked a lot about like actually the social, political changes, different eras, and also explained like how the media was like a key player there for lots of people here. And I mean, the most famous era that probably people from abroad would know is, of course, the Perón era, right? Juan and Eva Perón, super famous. They're pioneers in using media. I would suggest to craft their own narratives. So at least from what you can look up, you see, okay, they use the media very, very well to their advantage, because they didn't just like broadcast policies. They were like kind of like shaping stories that people would believe in, right? I mean, you can see like Eva Perón's face, he's still everywhere, for example. And the theory that relates to that is called Symbolic Convergence theory, SCT. And this theory suggests that you have shared narratives, and sometimes in literature it's called fantasy themes. Not a big fan of the term fantasy, but that's how it's called a few times in literature, and that creates like this sense of group identity. And we talked about this on the podcast before a few times, that humans per se want to be part of a group, right? We have like this group thing. We want to feel appreciated. We want to feel like part of something, whether it be like part of an in-group, maybe you're part of an out-group, but you want to be part of a group, right? And so Perón used lots of radio and later, of course, also TV, and you can also see it from like documentaries or movies about it, to build like this collective Argentine kind of identity. And that, as far as I can tell, revolved mostly around social justice, lots of nationalism, and of course and you know that from the movies, the working class, right? And the media strategy wasn't just about like pushing the political agenda. It was also about, I mean, of course it was, but not only. It was about like creating those, like a shared vision that people would believe in, whether or not you agree with that vision, but that people would believe in, to fight for it, right? And if you look at what you've seen of Argentina in regards to politics, you've seen probably like Eva Perón, who was portrayed as like the spiritual leader of the nation, and the media is kind of like reflecting the sentiment of the public, but it also creates it, of course, right? So if the media creates that symbolism and helps to share it, that kind of unifies the audience under this common cause, if you will, right? Much like how like shared narratives in a group, right, foster the sense of belonging. Like you share the narrative, you believe in the same story, and so you identify with the group that shares that belief in the story. And obviously, they don't have time to go through all the history. And I know if you're from Argentina or from South America, you're like, yeah, so much more to it. I know, not a history channel. I apologize. I'm just trying to make a few points to show how the media influenced society and the like, right? So from the Perón era, we can move fast forward to like another big / important era. Not that other eras weren't, of course, but Argentina also suffered from a military dictatorship and I took the notes, 76 to 83. And there you can see the dark side of media power, right? And the media was used to suppress, control, and not to unify. So journalists were silenced, according to the research that I found. The newspapers were censored. The culture of, I want to call it cultural fear, maybe, like prevailed. And in this period, the media became like a tool for a regime to, as a German, I always hesitate to use it, but I think in this case it fits, to propagate fear and like stifle dissent and so on. Like a propaganda tool, let's just call it what it was. Today, of course, things have improved, obviously, but we still gonna ask ourselves, like, how free is the press? And that's not just for Argentina, it's just because I'm here right now. It's generally speaking, how free is the press, right? And there's no longer like active censorship, as far as I can tell, but the concentration, and it's very interesting, of ownership, of media ownership in a few corporate hands, of course, can still like limit diversity in the diversity of perspectives, right? And so journalists aren't prosecuted like in the past, but of course there are still like economic pressures which then determine what can and cannot be said. So it's not active censorship, but you see what I'm saying. And it's not like this is different in other countries, right? So again, not bashing Argentina, just sharing what I was able to find out so far. And now the part that I was excited about, I'm not the biggest football geek ever, but Argentina and football is just different, right? Because it's more than a sport. It's like it's this cultural force, this symbol of national pride, and in many ways, like it's this shared identity we just talked about. And as a German, Germany and Argentina in football, we always have those heated rivalries. That's just very interesting to like be here, actually feel it for once. And of course, the media plays a huge role in how football is being perceived, and not only by covering the games, but also by shaping the narratives around football heroes like Diego Maradona and Lionel Messi. And before I start with the theory that I prepared, when I came from the airport and I was in taxi, there was like, I think it was the last match day of either, is it the season or is it now halftime? I'm not even sure, but there was this week there are no games. I checked. So it was the last match day, and the taxi driver listened on the radio, and then within like minutes there was a goal, and then I heard this so famous South American goal scream. It was amazing, and I think I heard like 2 or 3 more goals while we were in the taxi. Awesome, and you can just feel how much that means to the people. And like here, where I stay in San Telmo, there are like lots of murals everywhere, and then depending on which area you're in, you see different murals. It is amazing. And well, the theory I think fits very well here is called Symbolic Convergence theory. We talked about it before. SCT, Symbolic Convergence theory, and it's very much like the example before, like the Perón narrative that I explained earlier. Like football becomes this unifying, what we called earlier, fantasy theme, right? Whether you're from, from Buenos Aires, a remote village, or when the national team plays, when Messi plays, right? People from all walks of life will come together. And since I'm old, I'm going to take another example. I take Maradona first, okay? Because Maradona's example, like his journey from the slums to global superstardom, was like this media narrative that captivated not just Argentina, but the world, actually. And media played a role in elevating him to this mythical, almost godlike status, like creating or crafting the hand of God moment, if you remember that, into like this iconic piece of Argentine like football history, if you will. And so Maradona's, and by the way, as a German, that hurt a lot. But Maradona's legacy isn't just about what he did on the field, it's also about how the media immortalized him. Right? His story is like embedded in the fabric of Argentina's identity as a country, kind of. And here comes also agenda setting theory into play. Because like Argentine media isn't just reporting on football, it kind of like tells us what to care about. Every World Cup, every match between Boca Juniors and River Plate becomes not just like a sporting event, but like this cultural moment that really matters, that the entire country rallies around. Okay, like Boca Juniors, River Plate, like the big rivalry in Argentine football. And so the media decides what's important. And football is always on top of the list, always on top of the list. One more time, always on top of the list. So, through this agenda setting process, football becomes a lens through which like Argentinians kind of like interpret like broader societal issues like national pride, economic struggles, and even politics. And this is pretty evident actually during the last World Cup, like the media coverage leading up to or during and even now after the event wasn't just about the game itself. It's all about what football means to Argentina. How it represents resilience in the face of adversity, for example, how it tied to national identity, and how like the country's ups and downs, and there were lots of ups and downs, like inflation 200% right now, for example, which is already getting better, I've been told. So those ups and downs are reflected in the sport, right? So Argentina is like a world champion, and then not anymore, and they're suffering, and they're getting kicked out, and then they're coming close, and they're losing, and they're coming close, and then finally Messi wins the big one, right? So, and Argentina is like jubilant and crazy and happy. So it's just, football is so important to Argentina, and the media, of course, plays a huge role in that. It's obviously also good for the media. If you have Messi on the cover, people gonna click or people gonna buy it, right? And like I said earlier, like when I say Argentina, it's probably not just football that you're thinking of. You're probably also thinking of tango. And I can dance, I can walk. But if we just take the media lens for a little and move from the football pitch to, for those not football fans, for example, to the dance floor, right? Like tango has long been seen as the, I don't know, can I say soul of Argentina? Like it's very famous, right? You know what I mean? And media has played, of course, also a critical role in A, preserving that, but also B, promoting it. And you might already see where I'm going with this. Because we talked about this before as well, that there's a theory called cultural imperialism theory. Cultural imperialism theory. We know imperialism, country goes somewhere, occupies, hey, you're ours now, learn from us. But so cultural imperialism, of course we don't do this anymore unless you're Russia. Cultural, and maybe other countries, cultural imperialism means then that we imperialize using our culture. And usually that's like used to describe how mostly Western countries impose their values and their media content onto others. But luckily over the past few years, decades, this has changed. And in the case of Tango, we can flip this theory as well, right, to show like how Argentina has exported its own culture into the world. Because Tango started in like the working class neighborhoods here in Buenos Aires. Actually, according to my guide that I had, it was actually in La Boca, in the outer districts where it started. And then it became like a global phenomenon. So to make this happen, of course, Argentine media, particularly film, TV, and so on, helped to push Tango into the international spotlight, right? Turning it into turning it from like this local cultural practice into like this symbol of Argentine identity. So you see what we're sticking with today, right? And there's so many movies about it, documentaries, and even reality shows that help to maintain the relevance of tango, not only in Argentina, but across the globe. And what's fascinating to me is how this exportation, it's a word, right? Yeah, of tango through media is like, it's a form of soft power, which is a big buzzword right now, and Argentina has been doing it for a long time. So Argentina through tango gains cultural influence around the world. It's much like using a Thai example, like Thailand, what we Thailand have done with like T-pop right now, for example, or like the Boy Love series that you might be familiar with. So tango isn't just a dance; it's like this vehicle. Yeah, I think it fits a vehicle for like cultural diplomacy, which then needs to strengthen Argentina's place in this global stage. Okay, Argentina, football, tango, steak, right? That's what you think. Inflation, according to my guide. It's not hating. And even today, like when you walk around Buenos Aires, you see tango represented in everywhere, and also in the media. It's a backdrop in a film. It's a focal point in tourism campaigns here everywhere. It's like this big reminder that while the media landscape might shift towards more contemporary forms of entertainment, traditional cultural symbols like tango, football, steak still hold immense power, which I think is very, very interesting. Pardon me. But okay, for the last point, I want to move beyond Argentina's borders for a moment and talk about its influence on a global pop cultural aspect. Okay, because funny enough, I didn't even know that until I did the research, but Argentine cinema has been actually a very significant export for the country with film like, and I had to note it down, but it was very well received and got lots of awards. They Secret in Their Eyes. So Argentine filmmakers, and there's a theme right now, according to, again, the research that I've been doing for a while now, a few days, but a while. So they use realism and then using like those compelling social narratives. And to succeed in that, of course, the media plays a crucial role in sharing these stories with the world, right? And one of my favorite theories comes into play, so now you know why I also talk about this, the public sphere theory, because we're talking about this many a times, right? So this theory looks at, as you hopefully remember, how media like facilitates a space for public discourse. And in Argentina, cinema, television, they often reflect the country's social and political challenges, okay? And these narratives aren't just consumed locally, but serve to like introduce global audience to the complexities of Argentina, if you will, of the Argentine society, whether it's through crime dramas, political thrillers, like super emotional stories of resilience, for example. So that's all then part of the public sphere. And to bring this together with what I said earlier, this exploitation via the media then is this form of soft power we just mentioned, which enhances Argentina's global image, if you will. Yeah, again, we've seen this, like I said, I gave the Thai example earlier. You can also give the South Korean example, of course, like K-pop, K-dramas, and so on. So Argentina is using its cultural product to gain influence on the world stage. So we had tango, we had football, steak, and now also Argentine cinema. Okay, so the global success of Argentine cinema mirrors what we see in other nations as well, that use media as a tool for shaping perceptions, right? Which is pretty important. Of course, how other people see us is important because seeing is believing, kind of. Just like, again, bringing it back to home, to Thailand, where media exports are becoming like a key part of the soft power strategy. Argentina right now is finding its niche in the global media through this mix of what I said earlier, traditional storytelling and contemporary narratives. Okay, which again, interesting to see that actually a younger audience also gravitates towards that. Shows that storytelling always matters. More on this on my conference talk. Check it out this Friday. Okay, the last point, censorship and press freedom, right? Again, I had to do some research there because right now it's 3-inch, it looks like it, but I want to touch briefly on it anyways. And of course, the media landscape, like in every other country, has developed significantly fast since the military dictatorship. But today, the country still faces some challenges, which is interesting to see because, of course, the government censorship isn't there anymore, as I mentioned in the intro. There's still concerns, as I mentioned also, because the concentration of who holds power of the media, right? So while journalists don't face the same direct threats anymore, as I mentioned earlier, now it's still the case that most media outlets rely heavily on advertisement, of course, and in a country where the inflation is quite high, of course, the people don't have as much money to then spend on journalism, for example. So of course, journalists rely on advertisement more than on subscriptions, for example, right? So if you rely on advertisement or government funding, this can, of course, lead to a conflict of interest. Okay. Compared to other Latin American countries, it seems that the freedom of press is relatively high compared to other countries that you want to use as a benchmark, maybe not as much. And as far as research suggests, so I'm being careful right now, it says that like true editorial independence remains pretty elusive because of what I just said, which means you have to follow the money, unfortunately. So it's kind of like a form of soft censorship, if you will, right? So economic dependencies and corporate ownership, they limit the media's ability to actually fully exercise this watchdog role that, let's be honest, the media hasn't held on to for quite a while in most countries. So while Argentina is no longer under this shadow of dictatorship era censorship, of course, the media landscape is pretty complex, and I wouldn't call it completely free, based on the research that I was able to do in the last few days. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course, please do shout out, but at least that's what I said, what all the readings I found suggest, and also what the quick talk with my guide yesterday suggested, for example. So being here in Buenos Aires, right, so I've come to realize that Argentina's media is a pretty intricate like blend of history, what I just mentioned, culture, and well, modernity as well. And from football to tango to steak, and from global like pop culture to press freedom challenges, media is not just this reflection of society, it pretty much shapes it. But we as media fans and scholars know that, of course, right? Right. Media podcast listeners. So today we talked about series like Symbolic Convergence, agenda setting, Cultural Imperialism, and Public Sphere. And hopefully this helps us to understand a little bit more of the role that the media plays in shaping this national identity and global perceptions. So I hope this episode has given you like a bit of a perspective, because again, I find it very, very interesting while being here to look into like how the media works, how people consume media, how the media impacts society, and so on. I find this very fascinating. So if you find it fascinating too, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review. All those things help quite a bit to reach a wider audience, which is very cool. Yeah, if there's anything you would want to know, let me know. Until then, as always, stay safe, take care. Vaya con Dios.